That's iHobo. I'm Leanne, and this is Tim.
Hello. It's really great to be here. We've been in some great company. We feel very privileged as a small charity that we did a lot of show of hands earlier on. But could you just put your hand up if you've ever heard of DePaul UK before? Yeah, that's fairly typical. A small charity with almost zero brand awareness. And here we are catapulted to a stage alongside Smirnoff and Lynx. It's really quite amazing to be here. DePaul UK is, as we were introduced, thank you very much, the largest youth homelessness charity in the country. We've been around since 1989. We started when benefit cuts at that time meant that more and more young people were turning up on the streets of London and finding themselves having to sleep rough. But they were accessing adult services, day centres and hostels, that sort of thing. And there was great concern that in doing so, they were learning how to live a homeless life from people who've been doing it for years, rather than learning how to escape homelessness. And DePaul UK came into being in order to help young people escape homelessness. And we've been doing it since 1989. We still do it today. We've grown to become the largest youth homelessness charity in this country, but we've also spawned DePaul Ireland, DePaul USA, DePaul Slovakia, DePaul Ukraine. From very humble beginnings, we've done something tremendous. So I'm sad that so few people have heard of us, but it's because we don't have a PR budget at all, so we have to rely very heavily on friends to help us do these things.
We're really lucky that we've had an existing relationship with Publicis London for a number of years, and they've always tried to help us with pro bono, particularly design work. So typically around this time of year, we'd have a conversation with them, thinking about a campaign over Christmas, because that's a time when people often particularly aware of homelessness and thinking about people sleeping rough. So they've done some really interesting print campaigns for us, but they've never really had the impact that we would hope for and really help us raise our brand awareness. Like so many other charities, we've got a really typical donor base. You're 65 plus, ageing donors, and it's a big question in the voluntary sector at the moment. How do we engage with younger people? How do we get them supporting our causes? As Tim's already mentioned, we've got the added issue of low brand awareness across all different sorts of age groups. And it's a hard cause to sell. It's not sexy, it's not fluffy and cute, it hasn't really got the R factor, so we're kind of up against it a little bit.
So we, instead of having the usual conversation with Publicis, our sponsor with iHobo, a year or a couple of years ago, about what do we do for this year's Christmas campaign, normally which would have ended up in a print advert going into the press, The Guardian, The Spectator, that sort of thing. What else could we do that would make our pound go a great deal further? I was just amazed looking at some of the production that goes on, Smirnoff and Lynx. I wonder what your production budget is. It's just phenomenal. We had about £6,000 to spend on advertising. That's it, because we don't have an advertising department. None of that stuff exists for us. If I could talk to you afterwards about sharing something, that would be absolutely brilliant. So Publicis thought, well, what can we do to make that pound go so much further? And the conversation started around doing something that was going to be disruptive and interruptive and just grab people's attention in a way that a press advert was never going to do. And as that conversation started, somebody said, well, I was in Soho at the pub last night, and as I was walking home from the pub, I noticed so many people had their phone to their ear, and they were walking along absolutely oblivious to people who were lying down in shop doorways trying to bed down for the night. They were invisible to them, and yet their phone absolutely had their attention. And that kind of sparked the thinking, how is it that a phone interrupts your life and you allow it to do so willingly and so readily when you so easily can ignore a cause like somebody being homeless in the streets so easily? What is it about the phone that enables you to be interrupted constantly by it? And they do, don't they? The moment it buzzes or bleeps or whatever your phone does, you go for it, you reach for it. So how could we bring that spark of information to life? How could we take the realisation that a phone was something that really, really invaded people's lives and make something of it?
And it was really a massive risk for us as an organisation, and as you have seen, we chose quite a controversial name, so there were a lot of things behind it that were quite risky for us. You know, we've got a reputation to manage, and being in the charity sector, there's kind of a real, trust in your cause and things like that are really core values that you can't really risk too much. So it took a while to get some of that through our trustees and to really develop the idea so that it could happen and take place.
You can well imagine that there was huge hesitancy within our organisation about this. Massive discussion at senior management level, massive discussion among the trustees. Are we not doing something here that's going to harm our cause rather than benefit our cause? If we start producing something that talks about young people as hobos, isn't that insulting to them? We did in fact consult young people that we work with, and none of them were insulted by the phrase at all. They were very happy for us to be using it to do that. We decided we would be telling a story, and it's interesting that we've been hearing about storytelling here today, but not just tell a story, but have a story that people would be able to change the outcome of. And that's what iHobo is all about. You can just ignore him. If you do, his life will spiral out of control. He will end up overdosing, and that's really the end of iHobo. If you look after him well, he can begin to thrive. He can begin to take steps away from that world. But it's entirely in the hands of the user. You have entire control over the outcomes of his life. And it had to be controversial, hence the name iHobo. It had to be something that did jar with people the moment they saw the name. It wasn't going to be any good to be calling this the DePaul UK Homeless Person app. It just wasn't going to go anywhere. So although there was a good deal of hesitancy about calling it iHobo, there was a real realisation that we had to do something as striking as that if we were going to make it work.
So we had all these really interesting ideas, and then obviously we had to implement them. And I think one of the things that's been really key to iHobo's success is that it implemented so many really cutting-edge technologies, which a lot of other people, certainly in the voluntary sector, not using because they're a little bit new, they're a little bit untested. So it was the first app to use live action. So we really felt that, a cartoon character just wouldn't grab people, engage people in the same way. Also, really utilising the push notification technology on the iPhone, which was quite new at the time, and developing that, I think, something like 30 push notifications over the course of the 3 days when you're looking after iHobo. So it really is interrupting and disrupting people's day-to-day life and really making them think about it. Also, Apple have all these restrictions around in-app purchases, and they don't allow charity donations to happen. And we managed to cleverly get round that by building an integrated text to donate into the app. So if you think that the app as it is now is controversial, this is actually a toned-down version. Some of the elements to the story, which we originally, when the app was first submitted to Apple, had to be taken out because it was just pushing it a little bit too far. So we did rein it in a little bit there. And it was actually a really long process. So from the sort of conception of the idea, it actually took 18 months until the app was live in the App Store, just because of all those different things that we had to get through. And then it was really, how are we going to make an impact with this? So the app was seeded with a lot of tech bloggers, really just to try and start to get the word out. And some of the very first comments were a little bit scathing. We've got some slides here of some different comments. But then some really influential publications picked up on it and applauded it, which was great because that just turned the tide and everybody was starting to see the good, the innovation, and all the really positive aspects of the app. and it got us an awful lot of interest. So even Stephen Fry, I don't know anyone on Twitter who doesn't follow Stephen Fry, and he was tweeting about it, you know, which for us, with such a small press budget, it's amazing. And then everyone was just talking about it on Twitter and on other social media platforms. So there was a real buzz that started around the app.
And impact, well, it was a massive success. We, Depor UK, spent £6,000 doing this. And it has just been phenomenal. Within 5 days, it was the #1 download app in the iStore. Not just free app, paid for apps as well. It was #1. It was tweeted about over 3,000 times in its first week. It's had over 600,000 downloads since it's been out there. And that's just the UK. It's not available anywhere else. That's just the UK. If we were to go with that dubious science of advertising equivalent value, which I'm told is very hard to calculate, but we estimate it's worth about £2.4 million of media that it's driven, from Los Angeles, major broadsheets in this country, being talked about by influential people, just absolutely massive. So we're just thrilled to bits, obviously, with the impact that iHobo has had for us. It's quite interesting to compare us with other brands that might have a slightly greater recognition among you, but this is the ratings list. So you'll see that iHobo has been rated over 68,000 times, not very far short of Google's app, actually. So that's absolutely astonishing that we should be in such company. Sorry. We've also increased our donor base. We've gathered some 5,000 new donors through this. We didn't intend it to be a donor gathering exercise at all. It was supposed to be an exercise to get the name of Depor out there into the world more than it is. So it's raised about £10,000, so it's more than covered our investment in it, but that wasn't the main reason for doing it. They're small gifts. The gift people were asked to make was £1, £3 or £10, and there's a range across those three. The average gift we receive is about £2 from it. We've harvested something over 5,000 emails to our database, which is brilliant. We communicate with those people. If they've been really successful in looking after iHobo, they get a special communication. And if they've been less successful, we talk to them in a slightly different way. So we try and just keep in touch with people about it. And of course, award-wise, as we were introduced, we're told that it's won multiple awards. It has won, it's been entered for 30 or so different awards, marketing awards and others. It's won 3 Guardian awards. It's won the One Show Award. It won the EACA Care Award, the Grand Prix for that's a European-wide care award. So absolutely phenomenal. And of course, that's why we're stood on the stage here alongside such an auspicious company here today. So just too many to list. So impact-wise, absolutely astonishing.
And in April this year, we did some updates to the app. So there were a few kind of reasons for that. We realised we were missing a massive trick of not catching enough data. So we added a kind of extra element to the game, personalised it. So now the app actually talks to you by name. And because it was just under a year later that we were launching that update, we wanted to keep it as fresh and cutting edge as possible. So we integrated Facebook Connect with it to add with the social sharing there, and also just raising more awareness of the cause. So as you go through the game now, you collect these little bits of rubbish and discarded things that you might find on the street, and each one of those tells you a fact about street homelessness and homelessness in young people. So lots of new things there just to make it even more engaging, to reach more people, and to also give us those email addresses which are invaluable to us. So all in all, as Tim said, the app has been an absolute huge success for us. I don't think anyone anticipated it. We all had our emergency comms plans in case it all went horribly wrong. And now we're still sort of in a position of okay, now how do we build this? Where do we go with this? So it's been a phenomenal success for us. Also, just sort of in this context of this conference, I think it's really a great example, or we certainly feel it's a great example, of an agency and a non-profit working together and the pro bono relationship. And really, that good CSR is beneficial for both organisations. You know, Publicis have got a great deal out of this as well as us, so it's been really beneficial. So if anyone else has got any fab ideas they want to chat to us about later, we're more than welcome to hear them.
Thank you so much.